and I do want to once again pay tribute to the quite extraordinary work that our emergency service workers are doing here, as well as the volunteers. These fires have been catastrophic, and there is more to come, unfortunately. What we've seen here is today in Mark, who gave us the briefing this morning, he not only has been working here, he worked prior to here for 75 days on the Glen Innes fire. And that's a common theme, whether I've been in the Hawkesbury, the Blue Mountains, the North Coast, is that people have travelled in order to help other communities and then had to come back and defend their own. What we're seeing here is an extraordinary effort at a time where people would normally be expecting to spend quality time with their families. They haven't done that. There were dozens of people here on Christmas Day, again backing up on Boxing Day, and they're back again today, making an incredible difference to their communities, protecting lives but also protecting properties. I do want to say, in a community like this as well, the economic impact will be ongoing. This is the high point of the tourism season, and people are essentially staying away because of concerns about safety and the conditions which are here. We've had the highways cut off a number of times. We've had fires that have jumped the King's Highway. We've had circumstances which really have been going on for some time now and will continue to last for many, many weeks to come. So I pay tribute to them. I once again say to the government that they really need to give consideration to providing some form of financial compensation to people who've been putting in, defending their local communities and making a difference to our country. This is the best of Australia. People helping out their fellow neighbours, their communities and their cities and towns and regions. And it is unsustainable, however, to not have an income for a period not of days, not even of weeks, but of months. And this is an issue that does have to be addressed. Happy to take questions. Well, volunteerism is really important, and there's no doubt that people, when they expect to volunteer, will do so for a day, a week, and many of these people for months. But ethoses don't put food on the table. They don't pay your mortgage or your rent. And the fact is that wherever I have been, this issue has been raised with me. It's also the case that the statement that people want to be here, which went with the idea of volunteerism, people don't want to be here. People don't want these fires to be happening. They don't want their communities to be in danger. They're doing it out of commitment. Now, if you are a small business, a contractor, a private sector worker, and you have not been able to earn an income for a period of months, common sense tells you that that is not sustainable. And it's time for a bit of common sense here.
How should the government fund those payments for volunteer firefighters?
Well, the fact is that in the past, the Keating government gave a one-off payment in 1994 for people who'd worked for more than 7 days. There's a range of measures could be done. There's consideration of tax arrangements. There's consideration of one-off payments. Leave arrangements could be made. The Commonwealth, one of the things that shows that it's possible is that the Prime Minister said that it wasn't possible to make any changes at all. Just the day before, he announced that the provision that's always been there in the award for public servants at the federal level to get paid leave, the discretion on that would be removed, and it would just be automatically paid under the direction of the government. So that change was made. It was made a day after the Prime Minister said it wasn't possible. So it shows that with a bit of common sense, with a bit of goodwill, and I note today that Minister Chester is calling for payments to volunteers as well. He says it's not the government's policy, it's his own view after talking to people in the community. And there's no doubt that if you talk to people in the community, I think the view is very clear that common sense should apply here.
The Prime Minister's called for, or is moving to increase the Defence Force's involvement. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, it's a good thing that the Defence Force is involved. The Defence Force has expertise, and already, of course, we've seen reservists and other people in the Defence Force helping out. I witnessed that firsthand in places like the Hawkesbury and the Blue Mountains. So it's a good thing. We need to use all of the assets at our disposal. This is a national emergency. This is a crisis circumstance that's occurring right throughout the nation, and it's appropriate that we use our Defence Force. They have skills, and we can all benefit from that.
What are the fireys in here telling you? I heard them saying they are tired, they are feeling it. What was the key message you got out of it?
Well, they're tired and they're exhausted, but they're so committed. They all worked on Christmas Day, on Boxing Day. They're committed to their local communities, but we do need to have an examination of how we sustain this sort of battle over a long period. We've been used in the past. Bushfires in Australia, of course, are not new. What we have now, though, is an extraordinary amount of land being affected. We've seen a length of time whereby this would ordinarily be, the bushfire season comes with summer. We're in the first month of summer, and already people have been fighting fires. Many of these people I spoke to have been fighting them since August in the North Coast, Glen Innes and other places. So what we've seen is people transfer around, including people from interstate. There are visitors from the United States and Canada helping out here, providing their expertise. We really need to have a much better examination about how we deal with these issues longer term. Climate change means that we can expect the bushfire season to be longer and more intense. The scientists told us this would happen, and unfortunately, the science has been proven to be right. Thank you. Well, the deliberate lighting of fires, of course, would completely shock anyone for how someone can do that. But that doesn't impact on the intensity of the fires. It's the dryness of the land related to. We've had that prolonged drought, so that we have circumstances whereby the fires are burning much hotter. They are more intense than they would be ordinarily. But if anyone sees anyone engaged in that sort of behaviour, it should be reported immediately. These people, anyone who lights a fire, is not just hurting potentially property, it's endangering lives, and it's a dangerous thing. And I just find it extraordinary, and I think the whole community would find it extraordinary that anyone in these circumstances would engage in that behaviour. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, just one more
Yep,
thing.
sure.
In terms of paying those firefighters, do you think that the government should consider introducing a levy for that payment, just given the increasing natural disasters that we are seeing?
Well, look, I know that there's a member of the government, one of the ministers, has potentially suggested that. My view is that a new levy isn't required, that the government has at its disposal resources, and the fact is that I'm more concerned with making sure that the principle that applies here is pretty simple. No one should have to endure poverty and not be able to buy food and look after their families because they've been helping out on the bushfires. And the tragedy is that we've got people facing those sort of choices. We've got people who are making a contribution, even things like paying for their own petrol to get around. These are circumstances that really we need to be much better at as a community. There's a need for a whole debate about this, but a need for, I believe, an immediate government response. The government did respond partially, but essentially those measures were in place already for public servants. So there's nothing really dramatically new about that, but the government did respond in part. They need to do much more, and they need to respond to support all our firefighters, not just some. Thanks.